Hello everyone, semi-retired Bob here. I talk about the carnivore diet and all things related to the carnivore diet. Today we're going to talk about several different things, primarily how to tell if you're fat adapted and how do we deal with someone who's in denial. First, let me thank everyone for being here. If this is your first time here, thank you for stopping by. I hope you have fun today, or at least get something useful out of it. For those of you returning, thanks for coming back. It means an awful lot to me that you did come back for another round. As you can see today, after 2 days out on the trail in a row, I'm just out here doing laps in the church because it's Saturday. You'll see this tomorrow on Sunday. I tend to just stay here on Saturday and Sunday, especially when it's really nice out today. It was cold this morning, but now it's warmed up to about 58 degrees, which is perfect walking weather. Bright sunshine. But the park where I do my other videos at is so busy on the weekends. I mean, even Friday, as I was finishing up yesterday, there were a lot of people out on the trails by the time I got done. So, I'd just rather not be in the crowds of people while I'm recording these videos. And let's be honest, after those 2 days I had on the trail, I need a nice relaxing walk on flat ground with no roots to trip over. Yeah, funny thing, I almost fell yesterday. It was after I'd put my trekking poles away, because you can see them sticking out of my backpack. And I just said that I've walked this trail before without trekking poles. I should be okay, so that I could film some more video for you guys. Not 3 minutes up the trail from when I said that, I tripped. I caught my foot on a root and, stumbled forward. I could feel myself falling forward. But luckily, there was a tree there to break my fall. I grabbed a hold of the tree and stopped myself from falling. It was it was one of those oh crap moments. Because I still have a little trouble getting up from the ground. I can do it, and I think I could have gotten my trekking poles out of my pack and used those for support to get me back up off the ground. But I'd really rather not fall. But one thing, there's my shadow in front of me, which means the sun's directly behind me. So I'll turn you guys over this way. Try not to tilt you too bad. But I don't know if you guys watch a whole lot of other YouTube other than, the carnivore community. But in some of the other genres, some of the other areas that people have YouTube channels outside of our carnivore ketovore low carb community, there's a lot of competitiveness. Everybody seems to think that this channel that's like my channel is stealing the views I can get. We don't see a lot of that in the carnivore community because, I was talking not really talking, just watching a live stream and making some comments. Ready, Set, Keto had their Friday Night Live. They come on before Hungry Heath, who I like watching Hungry Heath as well, but since I'm just doing Lion Diet, I can't really do a lot of recipes. But anyway, they were talking about the community here in the carnivore community. You know, how when they went to Keto Palooza in Louisville, Kentucky, how they were treated like royalty. And everybody treats pretty much everybody in this community like they're royalty. And I'm a big believer that all of us that have smaller channels like this one will do much better if we just embrace the community and try to build each other up. Because most of the people that like Ready, Set, Keto are going to watch my stuff. Most of the people that like me, I think they'll like Crafty and Carnivore-ish. And it goes on and on and on. And, you know, people that like Crafty and Carnivore-ish are going to like Too Crazy Ketos. And it just keeps going. We're all the same community. There's plenty of views to go around. And I guess the thing I'm trying to say is that amongst all of the carnivore channels that I'm a part of, they're all genuinely happy to see people. And we're like one big family. And we're not judgmental. You know, a lot of the, let's just say the other styles of dieting, if you fall off the wagon or decide you're going to do something a little bit different, you aren't part of their community anymore. You're shunned, you're outcast. Whereas most of the carnivore channels I encounter are like, so you fell off the wagon, or you still drink coffee, or you still eat a little bit of chocolate, or whatever it is you're doing. They're perfectly okay with it, you know? It's like, we're all adults, we can eat what we want, and if you're getting the results you want out of those little things that you're still doing, as long as you're getting results, there's no reason to change. And I strongly believe that. So let's get into this denial thing. I've been thinking about this a lot, and I haven't come up with a lot of good answers, but I'm going to give it a stab here. One of my commenters on one of my videos said, why do people have such denial and not want to try this diet? And I forget who it was, whether it was her husband or her brother or just somebody she knew, won't even listen to her. And I think he was in the hospital because he just got a foot chopped off due to diabetes. And a fellow YouTuber that I know that had a van life channel, and he's hoping to get things together so that he can get back out on the road. But he had both his legs taken off because of diabetes. And I said, you know, you ought to give this carnivore thing a try, because it completely reversed my diabetes. Yet they don't want to hear it. And I think I sort of understand why. Well, there's a couple of reasons, and these may be completely off base, but I'm going to give it a stab. I mean, first off, they're scared to try. You know, they have this idea that their diabetes, because they've been told, is an uncurable, naturally progressive disease that slowly gets worse and worse and worse over time. And, you know, their doctor has said, well, you're just unlucky. You got diabetes. Here, take this handful of pills. I'll see you next year to cut off some toes. And I'll give you another couple of pills. And then next year we'll get together because you've lost sight in one of your eyes. And then in a couple of years we'll get together and we'll cut off both your feet. And you'll slowly lose body parts. But if you keep taking all these pills, we can slow that down a little bit. And you'll get a few more years of life. And because that's what they've been told over and over and over again, and because they believe that their diabetes is an incurable, progressive disease that will slowly get worse over time, I think they're afraid that if they go a completely different route, instead of slowly losing body parts over years, I think they're afraid that they're just going to fall over and die in a matter of months if they try to do something different. So that's one of my thoughts. And another one, you know, they're so used to taking the pills and seeing the doctors. It's just that's what they do because they have diabetes. And part of the problem with all this is the American Heart Association and the American Diabetes Association. You know, we've been told for the past 30, 40, 50 years that eating red meat was bad for us. Oh, you can't eat that. All that cholesterol is going to kill you. You can't eat that. All that saturated fat's going to kill you. Did you know that both the American Heart Association and the American Diabetes Association have taken out of their recommendations? You know, they used to have in big letters, don't eat saturated fat, don't eat cholesterol, don't eat those egg yolks, don't eat that red meat. Talking about saturated fat and cholesterol. Big warnings on their nutritional guidelines about that stuff for decades. About a year and a half ago now, they just quietly took those out of the suggestions because they did a lot of research. Not that they published it because they weren't trying to prove that there was no harm in it. big pharma and big food funded research projects to prove that cholesterol and saturated fat were bad for you. And despite spending billions of dollars on this research over the last 25 plus years, they have found zero evidence, none, that eating saturated fat or cholesterol is in any way causal to heart disease or diabetes. Think about that for a minute. I mean, the American Heart Association might as well be called the World Heart Association, because pretty much everyone else in the world takes their nutritional cues from the American Heart Association, because they figure, why bother spending the money on that type of organization when the Americans are going to spend all their money and we can just read their guidelines and pass those on. And that makes sense. But the thing that never happened and never will happen, that I think would be a big help, because doctors don't have time to go out to those websites where every year they get a great big thick book with the guidelines in it. They don't have time to read that stuff every day, not from cover to cover. And your Aunt Sue or your cousin Tom or whoever, they don't really have that much interest in it. They just read the guidelines one time and said, okay, I got it. No saturated fat, no cholesterol. I'm good to go. And they will continue to parrot that at you because they believe it's true. They're not trying to hurt you. They're not trying to cause you bad health. It's just what they've been taught. What they know is fact. But what's never happened, yes, they both just quietly lifted references to saturated fat and cholesterol out of their guidelines. But what they should do is get in front of the camera with a news conference, a press conference, and say, I know we've said saturated fat is bad for you, and we've been saying it for 50 plus years. Well, we're sorry. We got it wrong. You're never going to hear that press conference. And that's the kind of thing it will take to get the word out to massive numbers of people. But there is another way to get that word out, which ties back in to what I was saying earlier about community. All you guys watching this and all the other content creators that I follow and comment on their videos, they're like a family to me. They're not competition. We're all in this together. I know that's not a very popular term in some circles, but in this particular instance, we are all in this together, and we're stronger as a group than we are individually. Which brings me to all the YouTube-y things. If you're still watching at this point, why don't you go ahead and consider subscribing to the channel. It helps get the word out It means an awful lot to me, and it's not going to cost you a dime. Go ahead and hit the like button. Do all that kind of stuff. Leave a comment. All the interaction you can have with the channel helps get the word out further. But don't run off yet. We still got more to talk about. But before I get into the next topic, I also want to mention a couple of shout outs, or as Nick Nimmin and now I start to say, high five and a fist bump. I'd like to say thank you to Allison for that generous donation. And I'd like to thank Tom for being my very first channel member. And I hope we get a few more, because I'm going to start doing member-only live streams. Of course, it'll be a little easy if there's only one person in the live stream, but I'd like to have a few more. And even if you're not super interested in the extra things I offer, if you've enjoyed watching my content and want to help me upgrade my equipment a little bit, because right now I'm still spending, there's my Adobe suite. Now granted, I use it for more than just my YouTube channel. I use it for a lot of stuff. But, the Adobe suite with Photoshop and Lightroom and Premiere Pro editing and all that stuff, I think it's like $56 a month. And there's some other expenses. So I'm, giving these videos out for free on the YouTube platform. You have to watch a few ads, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. But if you like my content and want to support me even further, there is a little button down next to the subscribe button that says join. You can do that and throw a few dollars a month my way to help me make these videos better. If I get enough for a gas budget, I'll be able to drive to other trails rather than the one that's just down the road. But if you don't, if you can't afford that, if you're like me and you're on a fixed income, that's perfectly fine. I'm okay with that. I've been walking pretty fast today. I told myself originally I was going to walk kind of slow, because this is the channel of full disclosure. I did have a rough night last night. My back was hurting. I don't know if that was just a usual flare-up of my spinal stenosis, or because I hiked more than 6 miles on trail with a backpack 2 days in a row. Actually, if you add them together, it's real close to 13 miles in 2 days. So it was a pain pill kind of night last night. I did take one of my pain pills, finally fell asleep about 3 in the morning. Had my alarm set for 8 o'clock because there was a function at the church this morning that started at 9:30. And I slept right through my alarm. Didn't wake up till almost 10:30. And because I'm always at everything out here at the church, pastor called me to make sure everything was okay. I said, yeah, I just slept in. And then, of course, he had a couple other concerns. You know, he wanted to make sure I had heat in my trailer. And I said, oh, yes, I have heat in my trailer. And he wanted to make sure I had some place to go for Thanksgiving. And I said, yes, I have some place to go for Thanksgiving. Thank you for checking up on me. And that's just the kind of guy he is. He likes to take care of everybody. Well, let's go ahead and get into this quick little subject of how you can tell that you're fat adapted. You know, because you hear a lot about it when you're first starting. It's like, oh, you're switching over from a carb-based diet to a fat-based diet. How do you know it's working? How do you know your body is starting to to get adapted and actually use fat for fuel? Basically, how do you know you're not starving yourself to death by not eating those carbs? Well, if you're not willing to take my word for it, which I strongly recommend against it, you know, there's lots of people much better qualified than me out there on the internet to talk about things, nutrition and health. Dr. Barry, Professor K, Dr. Anthony Chafee, Nurse Cindy, Steak and Butter Gal. I know I'm forgetting some. It's making my hand hurt holding it that way. Oh. But the first sign that you're becoming fat adapted, and we've sort of talked about this before, when you get started, you'll lose a bunch of weight right off the bat, and you're going to the bathroom a lot, whether it be number one or number two. All that inappropriate inflammation that you've been holding on to will start to just pour out of your body. And you know, water can't go anywhere without some salt attached to it. So make sure you're getting enough salt during the initial process. If you don't like that much salt, after you get adapted, you can get by with less, but you do still need some. Salt, potassium, magnesium, the big three electrolytes. You need some of that in your diet. And once you're fully fat adapted, you'll get a great deal of that from just eating salted red meat with its associated fats. And part of that, besides peeing a lot, getting rid of all that stuff, getting rid of all that water weight, a lot of us had a little bit of edema or water swelling. It usually shows up in the lower legs. You know how you take your socks off and there's kind of a red ring that's indented in around your ankle where that sock was? Or you just push in on your ankle and it squishes in a little bit. That's another place we like to hold that inappropriate inflammation, that water weight. So that should start to reduce itself as you start to become fat adapted. Another way to know, and we've talked about this even recently, you're not as hungry. Because meat and the associated fats are so much more satiating. In fact, they have and trigger your satiety hormones. So that after you eat a bunch, your body will go, oh, no, I can't eat no more of that right now. Whereas, and I've talked about this before, there is no turn-off mechanism when you're eating carby, sugary, highly processed food. You know, you sit down to your bowl of, my weakness was Reese's Puffs cereal. Love that stuff. Well, I used to. Now I know better. But you know, you'd sit down with a big box of Reese's Puffs or whatever your cereal of choice is, pour yourself a big bowl, dump some milk on it, and go to town. But then the cereal doesn't soak up all the milk, so you got a half bowl of milk left over, and you don't want to waste it. So you dump some more cereal in, just to use up the milk you got left. And you eat that, and you still got a little bit of milk left in the bottom of the bowl. And you think, okay, just to use up that little bit of milk that's left, I'm going to put just a few more little pieces of cereal in there. And you tip the box wrong, or you shake the box a little wrong, and instead of getting a little bit of cereal, you get another half a bowl of cereal. So you think, well, because there's a little bit of milk in there, I can't pour that stuff back in the box. It'll get everything all soggy. So you take just a little bit more milk and add it to your bowl, and you keep eating. And you keep going through this process until you go to try and add a little bit of cereal to finish off, just to finish off that milk. And you discover the box is empty. You've eaten the whole box of cereal, and you were still ready to eat some more. If you had a second box, sorry about that, my nose is just a little runny this morning. But, you know, if you had a second box sitting there on the counter, you'd probably open it up and keep going. Or, you know, you get a bag of Doritos and you're sitting there watching TV. And I'm not talking one of them little 1 ounce packages of Doritos. What's up with that? There's barely enough chips in those things to get started. You buy the family size bag so it'll last between grocery store trips. And you're sitting there in the evening watching TV, and you're just slowly munching on Doritos. It's about 10 to 10 in the evening now, or 10 to 11, whatever time you go to bed. You know, you're watching whatever it is you watch to finish off your night before you go to bed. And you say, okay, I better put these Doritos away so they don't get stale. And you realize there's either nothing or practically nothing left in the bag. Over the course of 2 or 3 hours of watching TV, you've eaten them all. And you don't feel full. So, you're not as hungry as you become fat adapted. You begin to actually have, this is number 3 by the way, you begin to actually have some fat cravings instead of carb cravings. You know how it goes. You're sitting there in the evening wanting a snack, and you're like, man, I wonder if there's any of those cookies left up there, or whatever it happens to be. Maybe there's some ice cream left in the freezer. You're probably not all the way there yet, unless you're like some people. These things go on for a really long time because they were highly addicted to sugar. But you're starting to get fat adapted when you're sitting there in the evening and you go, I'm a little hungry. I wonder if it's too late in the evening to go ahead and fire up the grill and cook myself a ribeye and have that for a snack tonight. Now you're becoming fat adapted. And you'll have energy all day once you're fat adapted, because your body has, of course, plenty of fat stores to keep you working and doing all day. You remember how it was when you were on a carby diet? You'd get up and eat breakfast, that bowl of cereal that never stopped, and then off to work you go. And because your sugar levels were so high, about 10 o'clock in the morning they start to crash. So you're ready for a snack. And then that gets you through to lunch, where maybe you have a taco bowl. And it's not the beef or the lettuce or the hot sauce or the cheese or the sour cream or the olives, but all those chips that make it a taco bowl. And you have that for lunch. And then about 3 in the afternoon, you're ready for a muffin or a donut or a cookie or something just to tide you over till dinner. And if you're trying to get out and do something, like say walking for instance, and you're fueled on carbs, you could be out here and walk for a couple hours and go, man, I gotta stop, because I gotta go get something to eat. I'm hungry. Whereas when you're fat adapted, your body just keeps taking from your fat stores, converting it into the energy you need, and you keep on going. Now, until you build up, your muscles are still going to get tired, like mine do. You're going to get tired, but I don't eat before these walks. I ate last night, yesterday afternoon. I got back from the park, got the video edited, got the upload started, and went into the kitchen and cooked myself a big bowl of ground beef. And I'm still full enough that I may not eat again today. But I probably will. I'll probably get hungry this afternoon again. But we'll see. And if you'd told me 6 months ago that I was going to walk 13 miles in 2 days, I'd have thought you were out of your mind. I'd have been like, man, I can't even stand up for 2 minutes. Walk 13 miles in 2 days. You are out of your mind. But here I am. I'm still walking. It's nice. The sun's nice. It's much warmer out now. It feels really good to be out here. And of course, the surefire way to know that you've gotten fat adapted is you're eating 0 carbs. If you're eating no carbs, if you're not dumping carbs down your throat, you have no choice but to become fat adapted. And your body's really smart that way. It's not gonna say, oh, well, we need carbs to survive, and you're not giving us any carbs, so we're just gonna let you die. No. Your body is a survival mechanism. And then we'll go, oh, we're not getting any carbs. But look at all these fat stores. It's the whole reason we put them there. So, let's get to it. And it starts breaking down and oxidizing your fat cells for energy. Which is why, you know, the bodybuilders can get very unhealthy because as they're getting so-called shredded for competition, they get their body composition, their fat levels, as close to 0 as they can get them. And now, all of a sudden, if you're coming up light on your protein shakes or whatever it is you're drinking, if your body has no carbs and no fat, well, it's got no choice but to start breaking down other things for fuel. It doesn't happen to many of them, but, and don't get me wrong, I'm not getting down on bodybuilders. If that's your thing, go to it. Just make sure you're well educated and know exactly what you're doing. But I have to walk over here in the shade of the bus for just a second because I think I've rambled on quite enough here. Oh boy. Okay. Yeah. I had thought of recording a few laps and putting in the music section, but I'm sorry, I'm at the 44-minute mark, and by the time I edit out some of the pauses, it's still going to be a 40-minute video or so, maybe 35. But that's about as long as I want these things to get. I will, of course, go out and walk some more after the ball game, but it's time for football. So there should be a video pop up over here linking to the entire September playlist, so you can go back and watch the start of my walking challenge. Another one over here you've never seen before. Don't forget to get out there and be 1% better today, folks. Have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow.